TheDailyMass.com. Experience the Roman Catholic Mass from historic St. Louis Cathedral every day on TheDailyMass.com. His love, anywhere in the world.
Good evening, I'm Sarah McDonald.
And I'm Jason Angelette. Welcome to Issues in Faith.
We are in August 2015.
That's right.
10 years since Hurricane Katrina.
I know, there's so many memories of Katrina itself. It's just crazy that it's 10 years, how fast it goes. I feel like someone is pressing the fast forward button and they won't get off of it. Just that there's been so much that's happened in these 10 years. But a lot of good things have happened in these 10 years.
And for some, it feels like it just happened. Some, it feels like it's been so long. I did a lot of interviews with some people who were high school seniors going into 2005, the class of 2006, and hearing their stories of being so excited for senior year and then a week into school, it's gone.
Yeah.
But to hear them talk about how that experience has changed them, shaped them. One of the girls I spoke to, she was a senior at Dominican, and she said, I really truly learned that senior year that God's never going to give you anything you can't handle.
That's so amazing to see. I mean, we have so many opportunities to grow in our faith. God gives us opportunities, and sometimes He wills them. Sometimes I think He allows them. I don't think that He wanted everybody to suffer Katrina, but I believe that He suffered with us in Katrina in a way, and I feel like He was with us to help us, because this whole earth, it's preparing us for eternity, that this isn't our final home, this isn't our final resting place, and that this world is meant to be an opportunity for us to invite or to welcome His invitation that He has for us. So to be able to see suffering and to be able to embrace it, and to be able to grow through it, what a message. To learn that as a senior in high school,
And you touched on something. Suffering is almost looked down upon in today's world. You go, why are you going through that? It's not something that people look for. Nobody looks for suffering.
Right.
But it's not something that people look at as something to be endured or worked through. They look at something to try to get rid of.
No, we work very hard to be comfortable,
yes.
right? We work very hard to have our houses at the right temperature, our food prepared the right way. Good night, is it hard? It is hot. But the point is that we should not forget. There's a reason why we have a crucifix in our homes and in our churches. Is that it's through suffering that we receive the redemption, that we receive salvation. And Christ calls us to pick up our cross. And we preach Christ crucified, which is a stumbling block, or folly for others. So we have to realize that, just because, and the other problem is that some people have is this idea of like this health and wealth gospel, that if I believe in Jesus, then everything's going to be fine. Well, that's not, if you believe in Jesus, that's awesome. And
He also told us to take up your cross.
It's to take up our cross, and that there will be challenges, there will be storms that will come to our house. But what will our house be made of? Will it be built on a rock, on a strong foundation, which is built on Him, or will we try to build it on pleasure, on comforts and things like that? And so God's calling us through those challenges, I think, to rise up, to embrace our cross, and to grow, and to let go of the things that are preventing us from being more of who we're called to be.
And Katrina taught so many people that, in terms of people whose entire lives were literally washed away or flooded.
Families broken
apart.
Destroyed.
Yeah, and so to find, your home destroyed, your family separated across all parts of the region, country, your business maybe not up and running, to be able to let go of all of that. And New Orleans definitely has its problems.
Yeah, right.
Definitely has its problems. The entire metro area has its problems. And we've seen, it seems as though sometimes we've taken repeated hits with Ike and oil spill and Isaac, and more people lost their homes in Hurricane Isaac. But we keep seeing this resiliency, and I am a firm believer that the Adoration Chapel, some people might say we have too many Adoration Chapels. There's no such thing. No. The prayer and the faith and the resiliency of the people here in New Orleans, being a city that truly cares about its history, its heritage, and its connection to the Catholic faith, help us to grow throughout all of these challenges and come back stronger.
And don't forget that, like don't forget Katrina, like don't forget the lessons that it taught us. Like we should remember, so that, like I heard a story of a couple who, they experienced a real challenge when they were first married, right? And so, fast forward when Katrina came, because of the struggle that they dealt with so early on in their marriage, that when it came to Katrina, that paradigm, that way of seeing things, helped them to embrace Katrina more, because they realized, you know what, it's just stuff. You're okay, we're okay, it's just stuff. And that's kind of what I heard a lot of people who went through Katrina realize, like in bigger picture, like, it was just stuff. There's a lot of great stuff and they were sad to lose it, but it put things in perspective. So yeah, we shouldn't forget the blessings that God wants to give to us through any opportunity of suffering that we might encounter.
And the grateful hearts that we have for everyone who stepped out of their zones to help all over the world with time, talent, treasure, the outpouring of support and generosity that we have then also as a region been blessed to be able to show to other parts of the world like Haiti. And so it's 10 years. It's a time to reflect. It's a time to be thankful for the blessings that we have, but it's also a time to look forward.
That's right. Absolutely. As the New Orleans metro area observed the 10 years since Katrina changed our region forever, Catholic Charities Archdiocese of New Orleans is reflecting on their work over the past decade and looking ahead with grateful hearts.
My son told me, he said, "Mom, the city you love so much," he said, "I hate to tell you, but I think it's done."
We weren't really known as the disaster response agency, honestly, until it hit and you had to respond.
I look back now 10 years ago, at times it seems like it was just yesterday. At times it seems like it was 20 years ago.
Catholic Charities has always been a responder to the needs of people. What Katrina did for the agency was to make us an early responder and a forever responder, to be there as soon as we can and to be there as long as we're needed to be there.
Doing kind of the recovery work of getting into these homes, getting them cleaned out, getting them to the point where they could even be rebuilt needed a lot of hands on deck.
As we look at these, we could say, well, that's overwhelming. How will we ever be able to do anything? But we can. And it's one day at a time, it's one reaching out at a time, and we can make a difference.
She said, "You take some bleach, some pine oil. I want you to go back and I want you to help rebuild that city." And I didn't have the heart to tell her at this point, bleach and pine oil is not going to get it,
A lot of our volunteer groups didn't come just one time. They didn't come just 2 times. They came back 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 times. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for Catholic Charities and these volunteers, a lot of these people would not be home today.
Upwards of 12,000 volunteers of all ages join us each year in providing over 200,000 service hours in Katrina recovery projects.
It was a labor of love, a labor of knowing that humanity had to be restored back to the city.
We receive assistance from pretty much everywhere in the world, and it was very heartening to see how many people came to our aid.
And another thing to remember is that in this disaster, the helpers were also victims, because everyone was affected by Katrina.
Being able to go through the same thing that the people you were serving were going through, that's a wonderful gift to be able to do that. At the same time, I think it's also a heavy cross to bear.
We received a large sum of dollars, and we realized that in order for us to be effective, that we were going to spend those dollars gradually, because we know that even after the homes were repaired and even after the water was gone from the city, that there would still be some ongoing problems in our community.
And we make every effort to meet individuals in the ordinary and the extraordinary crisis and disasters of everyday life.
Catholic Charities continues to be an advocate for the voiceless, bringing hope to the hopeless addressing the ongoing needs of our community like mental health, education, housing, crime, and violence. In the year following Hurricane Katrina, we served more than 500,000 people affected by the storm. In the 10 years since, Catholic Charities continues to provide compassionate care for close to 100,000 vulnerable people each year.
Catholic Charities continue to play a role in making sure that families are supported, children are supported, the elderly are supported, immigrants are supported, the homeless are supported.
There's no one-size-fits-all. We've done Katrina, Rita, Gustav Ike, the oil spill, Isaac.
That now we're positioned as the lead agency in the state.
There's still a lot of work to be done.
But I think our city is much better off now than it was before Katrina. It's been a great journey.
As we look to the future, we move forward in gratitude, knowing that our work today has been shaped by the many hands and hearts that have led, comforted, and cared for the many that we serve.
And while the names and the phrases are different for today, we've always been doing what's been needed.
We are thankful to serve you, New Orleans. We remain thankful forever, NOLA.
When that water go down, you guys will be there for them. I know you will.
Just as Catholic Charities is focused on gratitude for the blessings of the last 10 years, the New Orleans area nonprofits led by Baptist Community Ministries, the Catholic Foundation, the Greater New Orleans Foundation, and the United Way have teamed up to give thanks for the nonprofits and the generous hearts that aided in the area's recovery through a special social media campaign titled #XOXONPO. You can show your love for your favorite nonprofit by using the hashtag on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we'll be right back.
Why choose Catholic schools?
Our children have made a wonderful group of friends. There's a great deal of fellowship. They're fitting in beautifully. We could not have asked for a smoother and better transition.
It's more like a family than a regular school system to me. That's what I have witnessed in my last 4 years, and that's the part I love about it the most.
Get the facts at whycatholicschools.org.
One of the most recognizable images on the New Orleans landscape is its cemeteries. And joining us tonight to talk about our Catholic cemeteries in the city of New Orleans is Sherry Peppo, director of our New Orleans Catholic Cemeteries. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Well, we have had cemeteries in New Orleans that the Catholic Church has run since the city started. Yes. But recently, your office has undergone a new branding campaign, changed its name. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, I felt it was important to bring awareness to our Catholic cemeteries, that I think a lot of our church community is not aware of which cemeteries are our Catholic cemeteries, which ones we own, what we have available in our cemeteries. So we did do with the new branding of the name from the Archdiocesan cemeteries to the New Orleans Catholic cemeteries, got the new logo, trying to get more awareness out of which ones are ours, which is St. Patrick, St. Louis, St. Roch, St. Vincent on Soniat Street, St. Joseph, and St. Charles in Luling.
Right, and so many people, as you mentioned, within the Catholic community and beyond, they recognize the cemeteries, but they didn't have any understanding of which cemeteries were the Catholic cemeteries and what that means to be in a Catholic cemetery, and that's part of the focus of why choose a Catholic cemetery.
Right, exactly. And we want to, and if you go to our website, and we have a lot of information on there about, you know, our cemeteries are sacred, they are blessed. You know, it's an extension of our Catholic community. To go from church, our Catholic schools, you know, church, our Catholic cemeteries. So we wanted to get that awareness out. Our cemeteries are so old. A lot of people believe that they're full, which they're not. We do have property available. We're still building. We have some new construction coming up. So we have a lot to offer.
And speaking of them being very old, the oldest is St. Louis No. 1, and about a year ago, after several issues of vandalism and theft and very serious issues at the cemetery, you had some new regulations put on there regarding tourism, because we obviously want the cemeteries to be open. We want to share our history and our heritage.
Correct.
but in a respectful manner.
Yes.
How is that working out?
It's actually working out quite well. Part of the problem that we were having during the day, because a lot of people under the misconception that all the vandalism was happening at night, but during the day, there were unlicensed tour guides coming in that were encouraging tourists to mark on the tombs, to leave different items on the ground around the tombs. So it was an ongoing battle with the vandalism on the tombs, fooling with the bricks that seal the tombs, touching the old plaster on the tombs, leaving all kind of trash on the ground. So we've been able to drastically change that. I've gotten reports back from some of the tour guides that the behavior of the tourists is much better. The cemetery is treated more sacred when they're in there than with some of the nonsense that was going on before. We know who's coming in. All the tour guides are registered with our office. We verify their license, their insurance, so we know exactly who's coming in, how many people are coming through. So it's definitely has worked out well.
And these regulations are only in effect for St. Louis number 1, which is
for St. Louis number
the
1,
oldest
correct.
cemetery, but all of our cemeteries are open to the public to visit.
Yes, that is correct. We have St. Louis number 2 and St. Louis number 3, which are still open. I know St. Roch is visited. We have St. Patrick right on City Park Avenue, so people are free to go into those cemeteries as without any type of charge.
Right, and again, the cemetery's office is always looking at, again, speaking to the age of the cemetery, how to make improvements, and there are several major capital projects going on at St. Louis number 1 right now.
Yes, actually at St. Louis number 1, we've just completed the exterior wall restoration. The walls, actually part of the back wall had fallen a couple of years ago, so we knew how important it was to get that wall stabilized that surrounds the entire cemetery. So we were able to contract with a company that comes in and they wash out the old mortar, they pump in new mortar. It does not change the structure of the old historic walls. It just simply stabilizes them. So that was a $500,000 project that we took on, which actually just completed.
That's great. Well, we mentioned the new branding campaign and your goal of raising awareness of the cemetery's office, of what it means to be a Catholic cemetery, what's available. You have a lot of new initiatives through the cemetery's office. Tell us about that.
We have, in addition to a new mausoleum we have going up in St. Louis number 3, we also have a brand new standalone columbarium, which is strictly for urns for cremated remains.
Okay.
So we are moving in that direction as well, which is becoming a little more slower to the south, but definitely becoming more popular with families to go cremation. So we're going to have another new project going on at St. Patrick on City Park Avenue. We're going to have a couple of new cremation benches that we'll offer to families. We're doing more landscaping. So there's a lot that we're looking at right now.
And that brings up a very interesting question. A lot of people are under the misconception that the Catholic Church does not allow for cremation, and that is not true.
No, that is not true. It is recognized by canon law. However, the cremated human remains do have to be interred, and that's where some of the misconception comes in, and somewhat lack of education. So unfortunately, some families that choose cremation don't think any further beyond that to realize there's another step of being interred.
Sure.
So that's also what we're trying to bring awareness to, because it's not always about cost. Sometimes it is, but it's usually not about cost. It's about just being more, sometimes prudent, more green, more, whatever the reason is that the families choose. But we have a wide range of affordable options, from families that do not have the money with a sudden death and want to cremate. We have some places starting, as low as $200, on up, depending on, what you want and what we have available.
Sure.
So.
And, you talked about the education. You and I have had conversations. Families who don't understand that you need to inter the remains and what happens to those remains moving forward? There's a lot of talk about that in the cemetery industry.
Yes, there is. I've been to a couple of different seminars where it's really somewhat of horror stories that you hear, you know, with the cremation urns being found in dumpsters, being accidentally donated to Goodwill when a house has been cleaned out, finding them in closets and attics. There were some cases even after Hurricane Katrina when houses were abandoned and then going back and finding cremated remains, you know, in the family's home. So, you know, we're trying to educate families on thinking beyond just the initial step of there's a difference between what you do with the, you know, how you treat the body and then what you do with it afterwards. And it does bring a peace to family that's left to have a place to visit and be able to inscribe their name and leave this legacy to your loved one.
And obviously, we want people to understand what a Catholic cemetery is, that it's sacred ground, but we want them to choose a Catholic cemetery. You mentioned a little bit about some property for sale, but where, if families are looking, they're watching, where can they find property, and then what are the next steps?
Well, right now we have mausoleum property in St. Louis and a brand new mausoleum going up, St. Teresa Mausoleum, which is already available to purchase, but it's not completed yet. We have the new columbarium for with the niches for the cremated remains in St. Louis number 3. That's also adjoined by a new fountain and bench area. We have mausoleum property in St. Patrick number 3 on City Park Avenue. In our St. Vincent Cemetery on Soniat Street. We have very little left in St. Roch, but there's a couple of vaults we have over there.
Which is a beautiful, unique cemetery for people who haven't visited St. Roch.
Yes, it is. Very unique with the chapel, yes.
Well, where can people go to find out more information?
They can go to our website, which is NOLACatholicCemeteries.org. We have a lot of information on there. They can call our office. We have new flyers coming out, which will be distributed to all the churches. We also have a new family records guide coming out. It's free. Families can use it to pre-plan, put all their information in one place, make their burial arrangements, their funeral arrangements, list all their accounts, who needs to be contacted, and we'll have those available as well soon to give out.
And the end-of-life discussions are not always the easiest.
No, it's
but
not.
I know people appreciate having those tools and being able to have those conversations, and especially for families who may be caught off guard, it's much nicer if those conversations have been had and they're not making these decisions in the midst of grief.
And there's actually a big push going on in the whole funeral industry to have that talk about your life, because a lot of times when someone's passed away, you hear people say, we forgot to get that recipe. We forgot to ask, you know, where they went to school. We forgot to ask. So there's a lot of encouragement going on right now to have that talk. Make it more pleasant. Have it now, you know, find out everything you need to know and get all that information together, so it makes it a little easier on loved ones when you've passed.
Sure. Well, Sherry, thanks so much for being with us and talking to us a little bit more about the cemeteries. And we'll be looking forward to hearing more news and more updates from you very soon.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, once again, if you're looking for more information about the New Orleans Catholic cemeteries, you can go online to NOLACatholicCemeteries.org, and we'll be right back.
Jet Mallets is a local artist who creates one-of-a-kind glass sculptures by mixing art with science and technology. While creating one piece in particular, Jet experienced a transformation that strengthened his faith and allowed him to find purpose through his craft. Take a look.
I am a new artist in New Orleans, Louisiana, For the last 3 years, my focus has been on large-scale figurative glass sculptures that depict both a human subject and an interpretation of their soul as redirected light. And there's not really any other art form like this, so I am completely 100% self-taught, and I had to discover the steps and the methods along the way. So each of these sculptures starts off with digital 3D photography of the subject holding pose. Once I'm done with the videotaping, then on the computer I take those three-dimensional pieces and I assemble them into the full puzzle. Once I'm done essentially digitally sculpting the subject as if it were carved in stone, then I start considering how to sculpt the subject into glass. With that sculpting phase, I am modeling the subject in digital glass panels. And I'm modeling the position of the lights, and of course I consider the subject and the lighting from every single angle. This particular depiction of the crucifixion was designed to be seen from every angle. It's not designed to be put up against the wall, because if that were the case, then half the intent of the sculpture would be lost. So once the digital sculpting in the glass has been finalized, then comes the most risky part, which is essentially going from complete design and art to full fabrication. There is no prototyping, there are no halfway steps. It's all or nothing. And so for each of these sculptures, it's an enormous risk, but so far I'm 5 for 5. The crucifixion sculpture is a collection of 21 glass panels. These are regular panels that we see in our windows and in our shower doors. It is regular glass. Each panel has been carved with a machine called a water jet, and the carvings are actually holes that go completely through each panel. When we take all the panels and we line them up and we give them space between the panels, all those three-dimensional holes, the edges of those holes, line up and produce an interpretation of his body. This particular sculpture of the crucifixion is entitled The Hidden Face of God, because I have not depicted his body directly. The light is bounced through the length of the panels out to the far edges, left and right of the sculpture, and there secondary depictions of the body of Christ appear, made entirely of redirected light itself. And that is essentially my fundamental goal with depicting him in this way. It was to represent him as light itself. It is my purpose to try to move people spiritually, emotionally, even artistically. It is incredibly fulfilling to see the effects that this piece is having on people, and I realize that it's not me, and it's not even the artwork itself. It's the power that he is having on them in their hearts. The resurrection, the Stations of the Cross, Jesus walking on water and reaching down to save Peter. I think these would be unbelievable subjects for this particular medium, and it would be my life's honor to continue down this path.
Don't forget, you can join the conversation via email by writing us at issuesinfaith@wlee.com or by finding us on Facebook.
And that's our program for this evening. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back next week. Hope you join us again soon. Until then, God bless.